Welcome to another episode of SJHL Insider. I'm your host, Clark Munroe. Welcome into the IKS Media Studios here as we dive into another week of SJHL hockey, and there's a ton of news to get into today. And we have a really special guest as well. The new voice of the Weyburn Red Wings, Dylan Fiessel, is going to be joining us, so really excited to chat with him. I haven't met him yet. Just like Austin Mattis a couple weeks ago, I have not met Dylan yet, so excited to chat with him in a little while here, so stay tuned for that. The Weyburn Red Wings are finally back on the ice after a while off, basically. They've played one game in the last few weeks, but they're finally getting back into some action, and there's even more news to talk about with Weyburn as well. So stay tuned, buckle up, especially if you're a Weyburn fan, buckle up, and you'll know why in a second. Plus, there's some trades. There was a trade freeze. The trade freeze took place this week, so rosters basically froze across junior A hockey across Canada, and there was some moves made before the freeze. So we're going to dive into those. We'll look at some standings updates. We have some news around the SaskTel Game of the Month, which we're very excited about, and you know what, a bunch more stuff. The World Junior A Challenge is going down. So again, going to be a great show, but first we got to thank all of our sponsors, of course, and we'll start with Cantera Seeds, Borgo, Capital Auto Mall, Sask Lotteries. Oh, Capital Auto Mall, by the way. Sounds like we're going to have a live show from Capital Auto Mall into January, so stay tuned. I'm not going to say any more details about that yet, but stay tuned for that. Chevrolet, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Nutrien, Tourism Saskatchewan, Sask Energy, UPL, the sponsor of all of our broadcasts, SGEU, Great Western, SGI, and RBC. Thanks to all of our sponsors, of course. And thanks to this guy to my left here, Jamie Neugebauer, joining the show. Jamie, welcome in. Very cold. Are you doing okay? How are your joints? How's your car? How's everything?
Yeah, my car is fine. I bought my wife a Christmas present today, and I brought it home, and I packed it, decided to try to pack it right away, or wrap it, not pack it, right away. And my 3-year-old was watching me like I was dissecting a frog or something, because I'm a terrible packer, but I am happy that I got one Christmas present bought.
There we go.
For her. So that's a good start, but I do need some tips on wrapping. So I'm not very good. But other than that, it's all good.
Now, my tip, and I know your family is not necessarily close by, but my tip is I just go to my mom's house or my sister's house, and they do it for me.
Well, my wife is an incredible rapper.
Yeah.
But
she can't wrap her own
things. She can't wrap her own.
That's true.
And my kids, well, maybe they could do a better job.
Maybe. You should let them try.
Yeah.
It could be a fun little father-daughter experiment.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jamie, voice of the Notre Dame Hounds, who were in action this week, and we'll get to that in a little bit, and co-director of media. Got some stuff coming out as of recently. I know Cole Tanchuk. We had an article about him on the SJHL website. What else came down the pipe in the last little while? I know you've been busy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for the shout out there. Yeah. Love talking to Cole Tanchuk, and I was talking to Notre Dame life coach Corey Sitch about talking to Cole Tanchuk, and I was like, man, the world needs more Cole Tanchuks, because he just there's adversity, something that's hard, and obviously that's what I've gotten a lot from a lot of these Golden Sheaf Cantera Seeds pieces, is these farm boys just, it's a tough job. It's a tough day. It's a tough, room that we're staying in, or whatever it is. Yeah. Tough situation. We just get on with it and do what we need to do, because there's serious consequences in real life for these farm boys if they don't take care of business there. Yeah. And it translates so perfectly to hockey. I was so impressed with talking to Cole, and it made it pretty easy to write. The same with, the likes of Landon Stromey that I've talked to, and, Rylan Williams. The list goes on. All those articles you can find on sjhl.ca. I'm proud of them, but I'm more than anything, I'm impressed with these young men that we have in our league.
Absolutely. And there's a reason why, folks, so many of the best hockey players of all time have some sort of farming or agriculture background, and Cantera Seeds does such a great job promoting that and pushing that out. And thank you again. And we already thanked them for their sponsorship, but great partners here of the league. And of course, the championship trophy, which as of right now, the championship race seems as clear as mud, but it is not even yet the new year. So we'll wait on that. We'll figure that out as we go. But let's get into it. Let's get into the Prairie Proud Hat Trick. Prairie Proud, of course, a great Saskatchewan-based clothing and apparel company. Still waiting a little bit for some of the items that might be trickling into this studio space, but when they come, I will be more than happy to either wear them or show them off. Great company, great guys, great people, I should say, and really great stuff. So check them out, Prairie Proud. Check them out. Google them, Prairie Proud. Check them out. I know they have a Facebook page. I know they have Instagram and stuff too. So go look for them. They're great. Let's look at topic number one. And of course, as always, we have to recap the first half of the week. And there was 3 games on Tuesday. If you're watching, usually we have a little graphic that pops up with the scores. Guess what? Newsflash. We live in Saskatchewan. And when it's flu season, everybody gets it. And I know everybody's battling right now, including like 96% of our staff. Who you see on camera right now is pretty much the only people at IKS today and Bryce is in the back. But that's almost it because everyone has the flu or is sick or their kids are sick or everybody at their house is sick or somebody's home from school or whatever. It's a bit of a rough time right now in the province. And I know everyone watching is, good chunk of you are probably from this province. You're probably already dealing with it as well.
Yeah.
But our designer, Kelly, who we talk about all the time, basically had to drag himself out of bed to do anything that we have for today's show. So we very much appreciate Kelly. And the old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone, comes into play because we were planning for the show and we're like, oh, we don't have a designer. So he thankfully, again, dragged himself out of bed to give us what we do have. So Kelly, get better, drink some water, drink fluids. And hopefully you can keep it down.
Yeah,
that's what I've been told.
I'm a big fan of the emergency powder.
Ooh, emergency.
You just throw that into a cup of water. Hey, you're getting a full glass of water.
Right.
And then, it's some electrolytes, some vitamin C.
Yes, hydration is big for me.
Dr.
Dr. Neugebauer, there you go. Get your emergency. But let's look at Tuesday's games now. Of course, there were 3. And we'll start it off with Weyburn beating the Melville Millionaires 6-4 in Melville. So Melville losing at home there. Yorkton on the road in Nipawin with a 6-5 overtime win. And then the Humboldt Broncos, technically the visiting team, in Wynyard, Saskatchewan, home of the Wynyard Monarchs. And they beat the Notre Dame Hounds 4-0. And we'll get into that one in a sec. But let's go back to that Weyburn-Melville game, 6-4. What a game it was there, Nugsy. A 3-2 game after 2 periods. Ended with a 5-goal third period, which saw the Red Wings come out on top by a score of 6-4. Weyburn led 3-0 after 1. Melville made it close in the second, actually tied the game on a goal by Raiden Zacharias early in the third period, like 2 minutes into the third period. But then 3 straight goals from Weyburn just put the game out of reach. Angelo Zoll made 38 saves on the night, while Luke Brunin and Nick Jeanette split the net. Say that 10 times fast. For the Mills. Lots of goals scored in this one, 10 in total, Nugsy. What was your biggest takeaway from this?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, next man up mentality for Weyburn.
Yeah.
Because they're missing Jerome Maharaj, missing Cypress Smith-Davis, of course, bit of a long-term thing. So their back end is decimated. They called up Reed Slagowski, a pretty recent draft pick. They've had to rely on pretty big minutes to Simon Martin, who, of course, the Humboldt Broncos were really high on as a prospect for a while, and Weyburn made a move there. And obviously, Max Chakrabarty played pretty much half the game. But and then they called up Cash Alger East, who is a guy that people, again, who've been watching young players in Saskatchewan for a while, know up around the Battlefords area. He could score at will, and in the Western Hockey League, of course, they've got really close eyeballs on him. So Cody Mapes has built a big prospect pool to bring guys in that are quality, and so having a Slagowski and an Alger East come in and play pretty good, is a big piece of that. Now, on the Melville side of things, obviously, still dealing with, the loss of Caden Drury, but he's gone, and there's no excuses in Doug Johnson's world. We know that. Another kind of tough night for Luke Brunin. No, again, young player, young goaltender. He will be fine, but it's a tough time for him right now. And the Weyburn Red Wings next man up, as I said, find ways to score goals at will. Sometimes it seems like this year, and it's not all on Maharaj. So when I think of the Weyburn Red Wings, I just think that they not only do they have great players, but they practice against great players all the time, and that's another element to it. So you see guys like Wyatt Lacoste step up. You see like Blake Betson, who's just been what a Swiss Army knife that kid has been for Weyburn for a while, step up. And Melville made it 6-4 with the last second goal there from Liam Rodman, but
quite literally tough. Last second.
Yeah, pretty much. But so really it was a 6-3 game. But yeah, hey, Weyburn, you said that they've had their adversity with their home rink situation. And good for them to find a way to bounce back, and especially after getting really beaten in every way by Battlefords there on the Saturday. So good bounce back, good Chumbawamba for Weyburn.
Yes, the old get knocked down but get back up again.
In Melville against Doug Johnson's team. Score 6 goals in Melville against Doug Johnson's team.
Yeah, and you know what, Melville, I mean, if we can talk about them for a sec, because we're going to talk about Weyburn quite a bit with our guest today, Dylan Fiessel, of course. But Melville, after, it almost seemed like they maybe found it again. Obviously, remember, they started off the year super hot. They were top 3 in the league for the first, 2 months or so of the season. Yeah. They really floundered there for a stretch, and we were like, what's going on? But then it seemed like they maybe found it over a course of 3 or 4 or 5 games, and we're like, okay, maybe they're back, maybe they're fine. And in fairness, there's nothing wrong yet. They have 29 points. They're tied for 6th place. They're literally only 2 or 3 wins out of a top 3 spot again. But now they're 0-4 in their last 4 games again. They're going streaking. They're a streaky team this year. It seems like either good or bad. Yeah. And I know Doug Johnson doesn't love that. Just given how I know his mindset is as a coach, you want to find a little bit more consistency than the streaks. But at the end of the day, I still, even regardless of the whole Caden Drury thing, we'll talk about some moves that they've made to address some of that. And we'll get into that after we're done with the recap here. But I'm still not overly concerned about this Melville Millionaires roster. I still think they have the guys that are still there and will be there and leaders for the second half of the season. I still think they have one of the more talented teams, one of the better blue lines, a good crop of goaltenders. It just depends on a nightly basis type stuff. But I don't know. I'm still not overly worried about this Melville Millionaires roster, even despite the 4-game losing streak here.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's debate about the importance of the coach. Do coaches get too much credit, not enough credit, blah, blah, blah. Teams that Doug Johnson coaches, if they listen to him, they tend to be very, very hard to play against. Yeah. And, this Melville team has shown that through thick and thin. Sometimes they've had some bad bounces. I'm really happy to see Nick Jeanette back in net. I just think the biggest thing is, and we've talked about this a bunch of teams, there's some incredible goaltending in this league. There have also been some stretches where teams need to get those saves that they're not finding, and I think that really is number one on the headline list for Melville. Is we've got to get those saves. But as I said, Nick Jeanette seems like he's back healthy. We'll see when this Ben Lorette kid comes in, or if. Yeah. They got young goalies. They've been running with them for a while. We'll see if they can bring in the veteran and bring in that new forward, as we'll talk about to play. But they got lots of talent. You're right. Raiden Zacharias can score with anybody. They got Rain Hodge. You go down the list. Ryan Rothke's up there at the top, leading the scorers in the league. So they got lots to like, and Gabrick Carlson, etc. So if they keep buying in, then they'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't seen the new goalie yet. They acquired him kind of earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken, and he's got some really nice numbers from his previous squad. So let's give him some time. And
he hasn't played yet. But
a couple more weeks until Christmas. So there's I think a full week and a half or so of games until the Christmas break. So. Let's see. I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be okay. Let's move on to the other team in the Parkland region, but they were up in Nipawin, the Yorkton Terriers. After scoring 3 straight to open the game, Yorkton gave up 5 straight goals to Nipawin, and going into the third, but stormed back with 2 more of their own to push it to overtime, where Carter Briltz snapped home one for his 6th of the season. from Keenan Ingram and Thomas Rees for the game winner on the road.
And by snapped, you mean rugby scrummed it over the goal line.
Rugby scrum.
But hey, they're all
yeah,
beautiful.
You're right. Good point.
They're all beautiful.
The old rugby scrum.
Yeah.
But Ethan Farrell made 36 saves on 41 shots, while Nathan Clayton, who followed us on Twitter, by the way. Shout out Nathan. Myself personally, I think the ICAS account and the SJHL account. So I don't know if he just got Twitter.
Nathan, get on
really?
that, bud. I don't think so.
Well, Nathan,
So
if you're
double check
listening,
that. My feelings are hurt.
at Neugsy. While he made 27 of 33 saves. Again, it was Thomas Rees, Keenan Ingram, Carter Briltz off the top of the game in the first 10 minutes, went up 3-0. And then Nipawin, stormed back. Brady Seabrook, Carter Anderson, Aiden Bruce, Will Witter, Connor Ryan, all contributing goals. Thierry Laliberty and Jai Zawatsky tied it up in the third. And then again, Carter Briltz with the game winner. Neugsy. I'm going to say this was a heartbreaking one for Nipawin, but at the same time, you look at it the other way, this could be a huge win for Yorkton, I think, going forward, regardless of the fact that, Nipawin's at the bottom of the standings. This is to be able to do something like this is not easy, regardless of who you're playing.
Well, first thing that's interesting about this game is that it's the first time ever that the whole return for Clay Sleva, in that Clay Sleva trade, all played in the same game.
I didn't think about that.
Because Cale Johns made his debut. So that's really cool. And again, we talked about it a bunch, but that's such a cool trade in the recent history of the SJHL between Melfort and Yorkton last year. Sleva helped Melfort, win the championship, was a huge, huge part of it. But David Coyle, Cale Johns, and Tommy Rees are a big part of the present and future of this Yorkton team. And Reese had 3 points, and Johns made his debut, and Coyle, I'm sure, took a lot of big D-zone face-offs and whatnot. So and he's been a great Yorkton Terrier over his time. Back and forth, end-to-end stuff, and you take your foot off the gas, you stop focusing against this Yorkton team for a minute, and you're in trouble, and they will give up chances too. I mean, we've seen that, and yes, Nipawin has also continued to make moves and rejig things, and I think they've gotten some, some big, made some good transactions. Pardon me.
Yeah.
They called up a couple guys too. I think injuries and illness is kind of a theme around the league right now. But it's good to see Ashton Tate really contribute. He had a huge night.
4 points.
Yeah, 4 goal and 3 assists. Big time producer out of the Prince Albert Mintos, and then went to the Western League, and I think it was just a little bit too fast for him. So hopefully he continues to develop and grow that. And again, Aiden Bruce continues to produce, getting the opportunity. And Nipawin, did he get really a look in Humboldt? Not really. So part of me got taking advantage of that, and Nipawin continues to get points against whomever they're facing, right? They just came off that set against Estevan that they won both. So, they're continuing on. I know it's heartbreaking to lose in overtime, and neither team was killing any penalty that they were getting, really. But sometimes, you get to those small rinks, Nipawin's Centennial or L'Orange or whatever, no lead is ever safe. So that's what happened. It was end-to-end stuff. It was fun to watch. More fun for sure at the end if you're a Yorkton fan. Yeah,
definitely. And Nipawin, shout out to them. 2-0-1 in their last 3 games. Like you said, they've found something in the last little stretch. And, at 4-4, 1-1 in their last 10, which you talk about earlier in the season. That's a great record for them. I'm sure that they're super pumped about that, just given how their season's been going. But again, great little stretch here for Nipawin, and awesome to see. We talk about Nathan Clayton at length in terms of the type of goalie that he is. A young guy coming in and really taking an opportunity and running with it. And for Yorkton, 3-0 in their last 3 games, and again, 7-2-1 in their last 10. They've found something too, and not all pretty, but at the same time, look at their record: 7-2-1 in their last 10. Doesn't matter how pretty they are.
Yeah, they just need one. They just need one shift. When they played the Hounds in Wilcox, I had their lineup sheet, and we were talking about, who do we want? Paul Marine and Hunks to play against. Blah blah. I'm like,
doesn't really
their
matter.
Top 9 is legit, would be top lines in a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So who do you match up against? And it's just, again, you blink, focus is not there for a second, you're in trouble. And, Keenan Ingram, every time I talk to Emery, he or not every time, but a lot of times I talk to Emery Lawson, he wants to shout out the character he's seen from Keenan Ingram, and whether or not he had that reputation from other places, I don't know. Never met the kid myself, so I can't say. But Emery seems to love him, and they seem to love him in Yorkton. I love those little gladiator videos. Seems like they've got a new hat for every type of player of the game. I don't know how many hats you need for a post-game video thing there, Yorkton, but
they got lots.
It's working. They got a face shield thing. We got an oversized cowboy hat thing, and there's some sort of military thing, I think. Yeah. So they just got a bunch of things that they do after the game, but that's cool, and they let everybody in, and they're not over secretive about it, and it doesn't seem to bother them. Yeah. But when you have the talent that they do,
well, yeah, like you said, the depth is there, and you look at their stats, just on their player stats page, and 14 guys with 10 points at least.
That's not bad.
4 guys with 20. Bunch of guys with 19 too, like 4 guys with 19.
Well represented in the SJHL Fantasy League.
Yeah, and then they got 2 guys with 9 points. Evan Ald and Tylen Hendrickson have 9 points. So it's like they basically have 16 players with double-digit points, far and away the most across the league. I just went and looked and kind of referenced a few other teams, and lots of teams are at like 10 or 11 or 12. They got 14 and they're pushing 16. So we know that Yorkton is dangerous. You can't give them an inch because they'll take a mile for sure. And there's a good reason why they're right now second in league standings. And of course, we all know what happened earlier in the season. They would be right there for close to first place. Yeah, but we don't need to worry about that because they have bounced back in a great way. Yeah, huge way.
Sorry for interrupting you.
No, sorry.
And for Nipawin to hang in there without Finley Radloff.
Yes.
Got to mention it. What a great leader. What a great player he is. So much importance on him for them. Not easy to deal without him. So kudos that they're continuing to keep it on.
Yeah, guys like Ashton Tate though step up 4 points in a big way. So it's good to see. You love to see it. Game number 3, Nugsy. I know this one. You weren't super happy about it after the game was over, but I will say Wynyard sounded like they were great hosts. I'll say that. Maybe we'll start there. The Wynyard hosting committee, I guess we'll call it. How was that?
Everything about the neutral site game there in Wynyard was first class.
Yeah.
Obviously, huge shout out to Skip Dagg, the Humboldt broadcaster. Or trainer, pardon me, not broadcaster. Rory still has the job.
Rory, he's coming.
As far as I understand it, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Rory's the best.
He's making the transition.
Huge Rory McGoran fan over here. Skip Dagg is 1300th Junior A game.
Right. We
were talking about his first one back in 2004. I believe in Dauphin, or something, or something like that. And I wrote an article about it on the SJ website a while ago, so check out that. But pardon me,
it's flu season.
Good for Skip and cool. That, again, couldn't have scripted it better, right? 1300th game, hometown. For his Broncos, the rink all cheering for the Broncos, as you would imagine. Mm-hmm. And the Broncos come up with a playoff-style, gritty, really perfect performance. Like the Hounds hardly got into the home plate area. Did the Broncos create a ton on their own? Did they do a lot of flashing on? No, not really. Obviously, missing Connor Miller, Gabriel Filion traded away.
Right.
So it was a very workmanlike effort. Yes, they put 55 shots on Spencer Borsos, but they put 61 shots on Spencer Borsos on Saturday. Yeah. So, with Spencer...
It was an easy night for Spencer in that regard. It was a slow night in the office.
Man, like over 100 shots. Over 2 games for Spencer. That is ridiculous, but... Yeah,
in fairness, Eddie Gauthier made 40 saves too. So that was a lot of shots.
Yeah, 40, not overly difficult ones.
Yeah,
I would say. Not taking anything.
But still, it was a game
him.
With basically 100 shots in it. Yeah.
Brandon Myers hit the post in the first period. Mm-hmm. If it was 1-0 Hounds at the time, and the Hounds were pushing pretty hard early in the game, does that make a big difference? But then the Broncos took a too many men on the ice penalty and killed it very easily. Hounds power play has struggled a lot lately with Vinny Palmerine gone. Maybe not a big surprise.
I didn't mean to say that jokingly. I just
no, I know. So the Broncos
logically,
and I was talking to Rory, and we were talking on the show. We were talking on the show about the game on Saturday in the Elgar Peterson Arena, and Yes, the Broncos had 61 shots, and that's a lot of shots. But how many of them were in the home plate, dangerous eyes, like Spencer Borsos, in his eyes and stuff? Not a ton, really.
Yeah, right.
So 11 of them in this game were home plate chances. And so the Broncos, much better, much improved in all areas in this game, totally dominated the Hounds in every way. And that all being said, all 4 goals that the Broncos scored were gifts in a lot of ways from the Hounds, turnovers, or one for sure that Spencer would like back. And yeah, hopefully the Hounds can learn from it. And if you're a Broncos fan, then build on it. Because if you play like that, if you play that playoff style of hockey, then you could beat anybody. And I really like to see that soul that I saw from the Broncos.
And I mean, as per every conversation we've had in the last couple of weeks with the parity in the league, the Broncos, who after last Saturday's game were out of a playoff spot, are in 6th. So, it just takes one good game and some other things going on around the league. As we said, Melville's now lost 4 in a row. Larange has lost 2 in a row. Kindersley lost their last game. And Estevan has lost their last 3 games, one of them being in overtime, so I shouldn't say that. But, Humboldt, all they had to do is win one game, and those other teams, didn't. And all of a sudden, they're up in 6th. So it doesn't take much with the parity in this league to move up or down a bunch in a short period of time right now. So the Humboldt Broncos, after that game, I'm sure, are feeling a whole lot better. So that's the games that happened on Tuesday night. There wasn't anything else going on so far this week, but on the ice, I should say. Off the ice, there's been a lot of stuff going on. So topic number 2 for our hat trick today is going to be trades. We have a graphic here with 4 trades, but there's more stuff going on top of these 4 trades. So let's have a look first at the 4 that went down, and then Nugsy, I'm going to go over them all here, and then we can kind of pick apart the trades and go into the other ones that were also made. Of course, Capital Automotive Group is a sponsor for any trades across the league this season. If you mention the SJHL when you go in there to trade in a vehicle, you get a $1,000 bonus on your trade-in. So make sure if you're looking for a vehicle and you want to trade one in, Capital Automotive Group might be the best option for you. But let's have a look at these now. The Nipawin Hawks acquire Jack Shiro, I'm going to say, for the rights to Landon Pappas. As you remember, Landon Pappas was with the Hawks last year, had a fantastic season. Went down, I think, to the NAHL, if I'm not mistaken.
Landon's in the BCHL right now.
Now he's in the BCHL.
Vernon.
Okay.
Yeah. He went to the USHL.
And
then now he's in the BCHL.
He's over there.
Yeah.
So they traded his rights to the Calgary Canucks in the Alberta League. He's from that area, if I'm not mistaken. And they got the rights to Jack Shiro. So Jack should be on his way to Nipawin. Yeah. Zach Bansley, some SJHL fans might remember that name. He was in the league a couple years ago. He is now back in the league with the Humboldt Broncos from the Drayton Valley Thunder for Gabriel Filion, as Nugsy mentioned. The 20-year-old Gabriel Filion, the 19-year-old Zach Bansley. So a little swap there for Humboldt. The Melville Millionaires and Larange Ice Wolves struck a deal. Owen Turner and Jordan Abramets on their way to Larange, while William Forsberg, who is recently back in the SJHL, he was in the NAHL. Correct? Yes, yep. He was. So he's a 20-year-old forward. I'm going to say maybe as a small little bit of a replacement there for the Caden Drury News. William Forsberg, a 20-year-old centerman coming in, and he should fill a nice role for Melville. And then Larange wasn't done there. They also acquired 06 defenseman Ryan Dembo and 04 forward Brett Boucher from Battlefords for 20-year-old forward Seth Dragon. And there was other moves as well, but Nugsy, what stands out when you see these 4 first, and then I'll let you dive into the rest.
Yeah, it's Rylan Dembo. Anyways, it's fine. He's also a forward. That's also okay.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. No worries. So a lot to say. Again, things get reported, and hopefully we're allowed to report them. When we do, we're told this is what happened, and we report them, and we do our best. So I'll get into what I know for sure we can talk about, and I guess I'll leave what I can't talk about off the table, or if I'm not sure if we could talk about it. But yeah, I mean, my understanding is that Jack Shiro from the Calgary Canucks is on his way to play for the Nipawin Hawks, which is good news. Skilled forward, rookie there for the Canucks. And we're going to see the Canucks make a lot of moves because they're hosting the Centennial Cup, trying to load up. And Landon Pappas was a great player for Nipawin, committed to Bemidji State, of course. He's in Vernon in the BCHL, and maybe he'll play for the Canucks. Maybe he won't, but we don't have to worry about that in the SJ anymore. Yorkton Terriers moved Aiden Knutson to the Olds Grizzlies in the AJHL for a PDF as well. Big power forward, but minutes for a guy who wants to be a top six forward in Yorkton. Good luck to you. Not easy to find right now. Gabriel Filion didn't really work there in Humboldt, unfortunately. So they shook things up. And, you mentioned Bansley, AP'd with Melfort, a couple of years with Melville. Speedy guy, created a lot of chances for Melville. Didn't bury as many, I'm sure, as he would have liked. But 05 birth year, Humboldt gets a skilled 05 with SJ experience, for an 04. So, again, got a year and a half, really, of Zach Bansley in Humboldt, which is great. Bansley also time with the Lethbridge Hurricanes of the Western Hockey League. Very skilled guy. Weyburn is still waiting to see if they can get a couple of defensemen. Again, can't talk about one, apparently. Another one, of course, they're still waiting for Willem Turward, which we did report on.
Yeah.
But Hockey Canada needs to, put their stamp of approval on if a guy can come from the BCHL.
Right.
Back to the CJHL, I think it's more of a formality, but that's the way it is now. Yeah, William Forsberg, rough year in L'Orange this year. We got him back from the Null. Didn't work out. The Null didn't work out really in L'Orange. Obviously, he's got that rapport with Rain Hodge. Plays center, great centerman. Of course, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Not only was Caden Drury a great skilled scoring forward, he was the first line center.
Yeah.
William Forsberg takes big faceoffs, win big faceoffs. And Owen Turner, again, looking for a big opportunity. And a very skilled, young prospect in Jordan Abrametz, who I remember reporting on in the draft out of the PA Mintos, and a very electric, exciting offensive defenseman, potentially for the future there for L'Orange. And again, L'Orange continuing to stockpile prospects, they always do, and good for them. L'Orange also sending Seth Dragon to Battlefords for two useful players, experienced 20-year-old in Brett Boucher. Again, a Swiss Army knife type forward winger in Ryder Dembo. Dragon's a 20-year-old also. So, big boy goes to Battlefords trying to shake things up too. And the last one that I'll mention is Estevan did get a veteran goalie.
Right, yes.
Zach Shaughnessy from the Delta Ice Hawks in the PI. JHL, it's junior B, sort of. It's junior A, sort of. BC, whatever you want to call it. Tarts has a lot of connections in BC. So if he asks a guy, can this kid play? Usually the answer is going to be accurate out there. So, the fact that he's from Delta doesn't necessarily mean that he's not SJ quality. I'm sure he is, in fact. So he'll come in, and he and Ben Polhill can go 1A, 1B, and whoever's doing well will play. Shaughnessy's in 05, so they can see if they like him and bring him back if they want, in exchange for a PDF. And so that's good that Benny Pole doesn't have to play every minute. Yeah. So there's sort of the trade freeze breakdown.
There you go, the trade freeze breakdown. Yeah. And a great, I think that's a really solid pickup by Estevan too, by the way. I mean, a lot was put onto Ben Polhill's shoulders after Cal Kelsey left. So really important, I think, that they brought somebody in. And I think this is going to be a nice addition to the roster. I think, especially for an Estevan team who doesn't want to, get any farther out of this playoff push that they've been trying to make. I mean, they're right there still. They want to make sure that they still get into that close race and push themselves back into playoff conversations. Because they definitely, we've talked about this a lot with Estevan, they have a veteran group on defense. They have some guys on up on the forward group that maybe haven't quite performed what we think they might be able to, that are now they've got some bodies coming in too as of the last month or so. So some newer faces that are still establishing themselves and getting in there. So having that solid goaltending with Ben Polhill and now Zach Shaughnessy, I think that should hopefully kind of settle things down a little bit and allow Estevan to really jump back into that conversation.
And not that Ben Polhill was a problem.
Not at all.
He's been wonderful.
Yeah.
I talked to Tarts about it. He had one bad night there in L'Orange, but every Bruin had bad nights in L'Orange that night. Really, they did. And that's how that happens, and it's not the end of the world, especially for a young player. But Benny Polhill, every time I've watched the Bruins play, and he's been in net, he's been awesome.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
Solid.
So
it's just tough when they basically only have the one goalie and they're dealing with APs.
Called up Jacob Morris from BC, from Junior B, pardon me.
Yeah.
But that's not a long-term
solution.
It's
tough to rely on an AP all the time.
Well,
so to get that 19-year-old goalie in there is going to be a great addition, I think, for this team overall. And, like getting Brady Wilson back, like I said, they got Cole Robertson kind of jumping in there and finding his game now. Some guys are getting healthy again. So just watch out.
Kieran Ronan looked terrific.
Absolutely. I mean, Kent Moores has been fantastic. So there's a lot of positives going on with the Bruins. So stay tuned.
I'll be there at Affinity Place tomorrow.
There you go.
Me and if you're welcome to come too. Jacob Faith and I
got some stuff going on.
Jacob Faith and I are going to Affinity, so we're going to go watch Melville and Estevan. So
absolutely. All right, so that's pretty much the trade wrap up there. There's 6 or 7 we kind of mentioned at least. So stay tuned. Obviously, nothing is going to be going on from here on until the new year. Was it January 1st? When that opens up again?
Yep. Freeze from December 10th to January 1st.
January 1st. So I think it's like the evening of January 1st, so nothing will happen during the day probably, but you might start hearing some stuff going on. What is that? It's a Wednesday, I think. So on the Thursday, stuff will probably start coming out if there's anything going on. So stay tuned. But as of now, rosters are frozen. Can't do anything, which is good because it's the holidays and we don't want to send guys moving around the country or provinces or cities during the holiday season. Yeah. So topic number 3. Just kind of a bunch of stuff. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. It's kind of an almost like a makeshift Nugs and Notes episode here. So there's Team Canada West with the World Junior A Challenge. We have a standings update. Let's start with the standings just because that's kind of what we just bulkly? That's not a word. The bulk of what we just talked about was the standings. So let's have a look. I think we have the division standings here. So as you can see, Yorkton's leading the way in the Viterra division with Weyburn right there. Weyburn has some games to make up because they did miss a ton of action with their rink issues. We'll talk about that in a second. Sort of. The Weyburn Red Wings 6-3 in their 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're sitting there with 32 points. Melville 29 points, still right there. They have played the most games in the Viterra division though, and Estevan with 22 again. Right behind the playoff conversation. They're still right there. Melfort, look at that 10-0. 10-0 in their past 10 games. I mean, they're just rolling. 42 points, leading the league right now by a 9-point margin. So their cushion is increasing. The Flin Flon Bombers, 9-1. The funniest part about that, and I think Rory mentioned it or you mentioned it on SJHL Weekly this week, they've won 9 games in a row, and they're still only able to be pushing up to 5th because of the parity in this league. They were down lower. They're only in 5th. It seems like they should be in 2nd the way that they've been playing lately, but it is what it is. They've won 9 in a row. I don't think anyone's complaining. L'Orange with 27 points, 5-5 in their last 10, and Nipawin, of course, 16. But look at that last 10 for them. That's really good. 4-4-1, 4-4-1-1 in their last 10 games, and I think a lot of Nipawin fans are definitely seeing the light. They're seeing the light in Nipawin, and it's great to see. Over in the Nutrien division, the Battlefords North Stars with 33 points. So up and down hockey lately, but overall pretty good. Humboldt with 29, and of course, so we talked about them moving up to 6th place in the league. Despite a 4-6 in their last 10 games, they still moved up in the standings, just the way the league works this year. The Kindersley Clippers with 27 points. As of this very moment, they are sitting out of a playoff spot, but they are tied with L'Orange right now for 8th. And Notre Dame with 19 points there in 4th place in the Nutrien division. So that's your standings wrap up. In terms of the league standings, we don't have that graphic for you again. We're dealing with the flu. Okay. But I can just run down from first. We'll do the playoff picture here. Melfort, Yorkton, Battlefords, Weyburn, Flin Flon, Humboldt, Melville, and L'Orange. That's 1 through 8. Kindersley is tied with L'Orange in 9th, Estevan in 10th with 22, Notre Dame with 19, and Nipawin with 16. So there you go. There's the standings update for you. Nugsy, you have some notes here. Let's start with the World Junior A Challenge, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, the United States brought a team that is got a bunch of NHL draft picks. Like, they're all committed. That's not an excuse. Like, from what I've seen, the SJ guys have played hard. It's not. I'm not gonna sit here and bash anybody about anything. Really good to see Connor Miller score. Luke Lepper has also scored. But yeah, it hasn't been pretty for Mike Reagan's team. He's been head coach of that team, Carter Henson, the assistant. I'm sure he's not used to getting beaten like this. So it'll be interesting to see, how he feels about it. I'm sure not very good. But Sweden beat Canada West on Monday 10-2. Connor Miller did score in that game. And then on Tuesday, Canada East beat Canada West 6-1, and Luke Lepper scored Canada West's only goal. And again, I find it so hard to think like it's a very heavy AJHL team. If they had maybe given more SJHL guys a chance, could it have gone a little bit differently? Who knows? But it's a little frustrating, to be honest. I just have to sit here and be a little honest about it.
Be honest.
But it is what it is. They play the USA tonight. And the good news, too, is that the round robin doesn't matter, really, because everybody makes the semis.
Yeah, it's a small tournament. It's a small tournament.
So, you
need 4 teams
they need to win the right
semifinal.
game. and if they can get something from the USA tonight, maybe they can get something Saturday, bind together. They had yesterday off. Go in and win the right game, get into the gold medal game, and you never know, right? So they'll either play in the bronze or the gold. Either way, they'll play for a medal. But yeah, it hasn't gone to plan so far. So what? It's a whole new tournament on Saturday. Just wipe yourself down, use it as learning. It's been tough for Canada West.
Yeah.
It has been. So there you have it. That's the way it's going. Again, 7:30 tonight, HN Live, Canada West versus the United States. Will not be easy, but you never know. There you go. So that's the Junior A World Challenge. Anything you wanted to add about that?
No, it's just, like you said, I think the biggest part is still coming. So just, I've seen some words being thrown around on social media, and I think just it is what it is at this point. And like you said, we'll talk with Mike Reagan at some point down the road. I think not right now, but down the road, and we'll just see. Yeah. I would love to hear, because you and I were at the showcase. Yeah. We'll go back to the showcase just really quick, and those coaches were burning the midnight oil, trying to figure out how to navigate this whole thing with the Alberta roster obviously not being included in the showcase. Because the original plan, and I hope I'm not breaking any fourth walls here, but the original plan, and I hope going forward, but the original plan was that Alberta was also supposed to be at the showcase so that you could see all the players playing against each other, have a really equal and fair playing ground in terms of picking the team. Alberta decided not to come this year for various reasons, and I don't blame them. There's lots going on in the landscape of junior hockey, and it is what it is. Not going to sit here, not criticizing anybody. But because of that, they weren't able to get a good look at some guys and had to make some hard decisions on guys that they did get looks at. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't know what the names. I wasn't included in these conversations. No. But I know for a fact that there was probably a few guys left off the camp selection roster that they wish could have gone, but they gave some chances to Alberta guys. And again, I hope I'm not breaking any fourth walls here. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Yeah. And there's some very, very talented players on these rosters regardless of how the selections process went. And I think it's always hard at the end of the day. Like you said, the U.S. team, I think most of them play together all the time. Yeah. Sweden, I think a lot of them play together all the time. They don't
the
as much.
USHLers, but it's still a good team. Like they came up through U.S. systems.
Yeah. It's different. It's just run differently. And to throw a team together in short order and then expect immediate success, especially when you're splitting the country in half, it's not an easy task. And I think just wait. Let the finals come around. Yeah. Let the playoffs come around. It is what it is.
Don't be angry on Twitter.
Yeah. Don't be angry on Twitter. That's my main thing for today. It's the holiday season. Just be nice. Yeah. Now, there's some news around Assiniboia, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, now, so we kind of got the, negativity reporting, whatever you want to call it, out of the way, which I'm happy to say. Yeah. So we've got 2 pieces of great news. Yeah. And I was speaking to Cody Mapes today about how it all went. And, so Weyburn had their rink issue. It's ongoing. They had some games postponed. They played road games. They were able to play road games. They played in Estevan. They played a couple in Battleford. They played in Melville. So they have played some games, but just not at home, which is not easy. But they were looking for somewhere to play in the next little while until they can get their rink fixed and figured out. And they're going to be in Assiniboia, the Southland Co-op Center, which is so nice. Such a great rink. Have you been there, Clark?
Yes. I was actually part of the opening of the rink.
Oh, okay.
IKS actually broadcasted their first ever Junior B game there.
Right.
Rod Peterson was the voice of the game. He called the game, and it was a big to-do. It was a big event, and it was really cool. It's a great rink.
Beautiful.
It's a great facility,
Gorgeous.
not just the rink. But
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
people
really
there
cool.
are so nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was speaking to Cody about it, and he said, or I asked him, how was the process, and they were trying to figure out billeting and whatever, because the whole Weyburn team is going to move to Assiniboia.
Yeah, for a couple weeks at least.
Here. Yeah, and so how'd it go? He's like, well, it went amazing, and the Assiniboia people opened their hearts.
Yeah.
And guess what? They actually have 6 extra families.
No way.
That wanted to bill it, and they had to actually say, sorry, we're fine.
Turned them
they had
away.
to say no. So that is amazing. Like, give yourself, if you're from Assiniboia,
huge applause.
tuning in, give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Give yourself one of these, and that's just the beauty of these communities. Like there was a neutral site game in Assiniboia. Weyburn absolutely lowered the boom on Notre Dame that night. But every one of these neutral site communities, be it being Wynyard, Carlisle, where we were against the Bruins, Hounds and Bruins. These people just open their hearts so wide for all of us, and just the hockey community in Saskatchewan in general just never ceases to amaze me how kind people are.
It's fantastic.
So yeah, love to hear that and the positivity. And Cody sent me a couple shots, I guess, of Weyburn players playing in the arcade game and the games room kind of thing that they have there.
They have a golf simulator in there.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. If you ever get a chance, travel, like it's whatever, an hour and a half, I guess, from Weyburn. But
on that note, I was just going to say, I just saw today, Weyburn is advertising fan buses for their home games in Assiniboia.
On that,
So jump in there, get out there, check it out. It's really cool.
With Ryder Burns. And
get in there. Get on the fan bus and get to the games.
That'll be a great time. As I said, the rink, you'll be like, wow, like unbelievable rink. I think they've had Western Hockey League preseason games there too.
Yeah, I think the Warriors played there. Maybe Moose Jaw Warriors
Current played there. Yeah, makes sense.
It's really close to Moose Jaw, right?
So, so it's cool there, and great news. Yeah. And then last thing is we got a graphic.
Last thing.
The SaskTel Games of the Month are coming back.
They're back.
And Jeremy Corrigan was excited about it. Can we get the graphic, please? Graphic people.
I think we got a one-man show back there, so give him a sec.
Give him a second. That's fine. The first
graphic you calling for?
The Games of the Month. SaskTel Game of the Month.
There we go.
Bryce, our hero. Bryce wears capes around. Probably should. Doesn't really, but he should. There you go. So Melfort at Nipawin, the defending champs, walking into the cage, December the 20th.
Next Friday.
Next Friday. Myself, the Prince Albert Raiders broadcaster, Nick Nielsen, will have the play-by-play call.
The pride of Drake, Saskatchewan.
Wilkie.
Oops, that's probably really bad because they're rivals.
Yeah, he probably hates Drake and would light Drake on fire.
I never said Drake.
But anyways, he's a very proud Wilkieite or whatever. And Sean Mullen, of course, Swift Current legend, will be doing some work as well with us. And of course,
big fan of Sean.
Producer Rusty and whatnot. Rory is, I think, busy with a Broncos game that night, and I won't be in Yorkton with the Hounds. I'll be in Nipawin. So that should be a great time, and all those games are going to be absolute doozies. You would think all 4 of them division rivals. Just put up a piece on the website about it. Producer Rusty does a great job. He and you are obviously 1A, 1B, the best producers in the province.
Yeah, I've known Rusty for a long time. He's a great guy.
So he's an incredible producer and produces a lot of the SaskTel games that we do. Mm-hmm. The
fact that you mentioned the broadcasting team of Sean Mullen, yourself, and Nick Nielsen, that's a great trio, by the way.
Thank you.
Sean, obviously, longtime voice of the Swift Current Broncos in the WHL, and he's done a lot of work with HN Live as well. We talk about HN Live.
But the humblest, no
great
ego
dude.
guy.
Yeah, great dude. And Nick Nielsen, longtime voice of the Weyburn Red Wings, and now he's with the Prince Albert Raiders, and he's coming back and doing some SJ. So you'll love to see the broadcaster trio, and I can't wait to watch that game. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think that does it for our hat trick.
Yeah.
With that in mind, we just talked about the Assiniboia Red Wings. I shouldn't say that. Weyburn Red Wings.
Hey, why not?
But let's bring in the voice of the Weyburn Red Wings now, Dylan Fiessel. Dylan, first time meeting you, so thanks for joining us today. Can't wait to chat. And how is everything going today? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Interesting is the word to encapsulate the Weyburn / Assiniboia Red Wings over the last few weeks with the rink issues going on and the team having to move to Assiniboia. Said it's it's been interesting, but I know chatting with Cody, they've settled down now in Assiniboia. They've welcomed them in with open arms, and now it's just getting down to business because they got home games, I guess, against Kindersley this weekend. So yeah, just back to business.
Yeah, it seems like, Dylan, it's been forever since Weyburn's played many games. Like, I looked at their past 10 games, and you look at that, but most of those past 10 games were actually in November. It just seems like it was so far removed from them being on the ice. So how nice was it to get back on the ice, I guess, against Melville this weekend, and to now know what the future holds in terms of the next couple weeks at least?
Yeah, it was definitely key for them to get back on the ice and get back to doing what they love, which is playing hockey. I'd forgotten how to do broadcasting for a while there because there was such a long break. And of course, said the Melville game was postponed due to weather. And then November 26th was when the initial leak was found at CPP. So after that, there was 2-week stretch where they hadn't played any games until, I believe, the game against Estevan at Affinity Place. So it was good for them to get back. And the Melville game on Tuesday, great for them to get a win, a tough win. It said it encapsulated Weyburn perfectly. Started good, had everything right. Then some, gut punches going down, but coming back and getting a win in the end. So I think for those guys, it was just important to get back to playing hockey, and that'll be the case this weekend.
From an outsider's point of view, I'm sure it's been frustrating for the city of Weyburn to deal with all this stuff. From somebody in the city, can you just kind of go over, again, you kind of already named the timeline there. It started back in November and all this stuff. Can you just kind of talk about how the city of Weyburn has reacted to all this, and kind of from your perspective, how this has all gone over the last little while?
Yeah, frustrating is an understatement. Anger, it's tough because, breakdowns happen, but this is a new ice plant that was installed. If it was 10 years past the end of its life cycle, you'd understand it, but it's a new ice plant. And said on November 26th, they had the initial leak. They were hoping they could get it fixed and get it back operational as quick as possible. They knew that game and most likely the Friday game against Humboldt were going to be postponed. But then after that, bit of a road swing and a break, and into December, hoping they could play again at CPP. I know the guys, they were doing practices in Mydale and Yellowgrass, and that's tough, driving 45 minutes for practice every day. So they were excited to get back, and to start this week, it was looking like that was the case. They'd opened the rink for limited ice availability, and it wasn't until Tuesday, basically a couple hours before the Red Wings were heading up to Melville, that they noticed a secondary leak, a more substantial one, and they had to close it down again. So, yeah, it's been tough, frustrating for everybody involved. With the city, the crews working on it, the Weyburn Red Wings. I think it's frustrating because there's nothing you can really do. Unfortunately, breakdowns happen. But yeah, they just keep moving forward and look ahead, hopefully.
Yeah, I want to talk about that leadership. Obviously, Melville's not an easy place to go into. You know that. But without Jerome Maharaj, without Cypress Smith-Davis, without Luke DK, kind of the list goes on. No, without Bray LaGranger, like the decimation a little bit was there to see. So it speaks to some depth, some character there for this Weyburn team, that they were able to walk in there and get punched in the face and have their lead disappear, but keep with it. What more can you say about the leadership in that room?
Yeah, I think that encapsulates it perfectly. They said previously, before heading onto the bus, we can speak about overcoming adversity until we're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, we got to go to Melville and do a job, and that job is to win a hockey game. So no matter who's in the lineup, who's wearing a jersey, or who's stepping onto the ice, they all had a job to do. So I think it really encapsulated it into the third, especially. The second period was a bit of a downturn. Melville came back, taking the lead, but to stick with it and kind of bear down to get that win and really put an exclamation mark, on it, was big for the Red Wings and for their morale.
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, you got to see a few young bucks. I don't know how much they played or how closely you watched, but I kind of mentioned it earlier. But Cash Alger East is a guy that a lot of people have as a really hot prospect for the present near future, '08 birth year, and Reed Slagowski, again, another sort of draft pick. How did they do? And just talk about the opportunity that maybe some younger guys have.
Yeah, so there was 3 new guys in the lineup. It started on the Saturday game against Battleford's, the 9-3 loss when Cash Alger East and Ryder Woods had played their first game for the Red Wings. Alger East, unfortunately, we may not see him in the SJHL, a second-round draft pick to the Victoria Royals. Big, physical, speedy, everything you would want out of a hockey player, and he showed it in that. Ryder Woods, for those rookies to come in, it's tough, especially against the North Stars. And there was a bit of tentativeness and maybe some hesitation right off the bat. But as the game got on, they kind of settled down a little bit and just got to playing hockey. And then into Tuesday's game against Melville, Ryder played his second game and Reed Slagowski played his first. Ryder especially really got his confidence underneath him. I thought he played fantastically in that game, finishing checks. Another physical guy that played well to his suits. And Reese Slagowski, I'd mentioned, I didn't say much of his name during my broadcast. And for a defenseman, that's usually a good thing. So he was a great physical stay-at-home defenseman, did his role, didn't make many mistakes. And that's about all you can ask out of a young defenseman coming into the Red Wings at a time like that.
We saw, coming into the season, we saw the Red Wings kind of with a new look blue line. And I think that might have been one of their question marks coming into the year, was just like, okay, who's going to get all the minutes? And one of the guys that we've all been super impressed with is Max Chakrabarty. Can you just talk about his transition into this league so far this season and just how kind of seamlessly he's really fit into this Weyburn, I'm going to say offense, but just in general, a team as a whole?
Yeah, can't say enough good things about his play. He's such a smooth skater, big body, great reach. He shuts down offenses fantastically. He skates forward and backwards so well, and especially in the offensive zone and the power play, he quarterbacks it fantastically from the point. So for him to transition into this league, and there was no introductory period, he got right to business and played his strong suits incredibly well, and has been a big part of the Red Wings' success this year for sure.
For sure. Just last one for me then, or I guess 1.5. Are you going to get to sample some of the Assiniboia fun stuff there, the games room, the golf simulator? You're going to try that out?
I hope so. I wasn't able to come in the Neutrals game against Notre Dame. Stephen Wilson had filled in for me, so I haven't been to the Assiniboia rink since it was the Civic Center. So I'm very excited to see the new rink and all that it has to offer. I know the guys have settled down in there, and a few jokes are coming around. Nobody's going to want to come back to Weyburn after playing in that rink for 10 days. So it's going to be exciting to see.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Then just again, real last one for me. Obviously you and I have a really awesome job where we get to watch some incredible hockey players on a regular basis. But then it gets to another level when every night you get to either watch, Jerome Maharaj and Ethan DK and the things that those two guys can do on an ice sheet is just, it's so rare. And to have two guys like that can just do anything at any moment, it's got to be a treat. I guess, has it kind of sunk in for you when they do something crazy, or are you still surprised sometimes?
I think they do it so often, I'm almost becoming blind to it. They just, when the both of them step on the ice, and even Jackson Ruthven alongside them, it's something special. they force everybody on the ice, on the bench, and in the stands to look at him because of their offensive abilities. Said Ethan DK, when he starts speeding through the neutral zone, everybody has to take a step back, or else you're going to get burnt. And of course, Jerome Maharaj, you can't speak enough about his offensive creativity and his hands. So I've seen so much of it over the stretch. Maybe I don't appreciate it as much as I should, but it's still quite incredible.
Last one for me here, Dylan. We'll let you go. 5 games before the Christmas break. You got 2 against Kindersley, Yorkton, Humboldt, and then Yorkton again. Again, 4 of those are home games in Assiniboia, of course, but then the last one at Westland Arena in Yorkton. In your mind, what is the key for these last 5 games before the Christmas break for the Weyburn Red Wings to come out, as high up in the standings as they possibly can?
Well, I think for them, take their success that they had against Melville. You were down shorthanded, a lot of guys hurt. One of your top guys is suspended, and you still come away with a 6-4 win. So now in the last final 5 games, you can say, well, if we can beat a great team like Melville, we can beat anybody. So I think just playing to their style, using pace, getting the puck up and down the ice as quick as possible, and playing Red Wing style of hockey will be the key to success. And just focusing on the task right in front of you. Obviously, with lots going on back home and having to move into a new rink and whatnot, it can be a lot to process at one time. So just take one day at a time, one shift at a time, and just do your job.
Absolutely. The cliches are cliches for a reason, because they work. Dylan, thanks for joining us today. Enjoy Assiniboia as much as you can, and we'll get a report from you down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Clark. Thanks, Newsy, for having me.
Absolutely. There you go. Voice of the Weyburn Red Wings, Dylan Fiessel. Exciting times, I guess. Interesting times in Weyburn and Assiniboia, so should be fun. I can't wait to see kind of, again, like I said, the reports coming out of this experience for everybody. I think it should be kind of a fun little stretch.
Yeah, you know what, man, I'm very happy for people. I think growing in my life as I've gotten older, Clark, I've worked to be someone who's a grateful person.
Mm-hmm. Gratitude is the best attitude,
exactly,
my man.
Who is really, blessed in so many ways to live the life I do, to have the job that I do. I'm very, very grateful to everybody out there in the SJ, but on a few occasions, I do get a little jealous for guys like Dylan Fiessel and Ben Tompkins, who jump into the SJ and have these teams to call on a nightly basis. Yeah. It's just like, ay caramba, you jump in, welcome to the SJHL. Here's Jerome Maharaj, here's Ethan DK. Here's the list going on of great players in Weyburn. Obviously Ben would be the first to admit it there in Melfort that he was a spoiled brat as well last year and this year. Those are his years as Melfort's broadcaster, and they've hardly had a bump, hiccup in his time, which is just unbelievable. So really happy for those guys. They're 2 great dudes, and just say for sure, enjoy it, relish it, and when you get out, chance to watch these kids in person, take your opportunity, because they're just magic and they're fun and they're not going to be here forever. And you'll say, I wish I had gone in to see Jerome Maharaj and Ethan DK a little bit more, even if it's an hour and a half away on a bus to Assiniboia. So kudos to the Rings for not having any excuses, and Chumbawamba.
I remember just on that note, when I started in Estevan in 2014, one of the first guys that came to the rink was Brandon Crow. I know you know Brandon. Yeah. And he was the voice of
Hockey Canada Communications.
He's with Hockey Canada now, but he was the voice of the Melfort Mustangs at the time. And they were just entering their kind of start of Trevor Blevins had been there, but he was just kind of getting into that. I'm not going to call it a dynasty. No, that's the wrong word. But they were entering their kind of period of dominance there for a while. And Brandon had just got there, and he got to call championship teams there right away. Yeah. Right before that, Benny Walchuk had just started. And he was like the second guy that I met who came to Estevan for a game. And he jumped in as the voice of the Terriers and the Millionaires in the early 2010s, right as they were both dominating the league. And Yorkton went on to win a national championship, and et cetera, et cetera. So some guys have been extremely lucky, like you said. Others have to wait a little longer, Nugsy. That's all colors to it.
I will say I did have my sort of really lucky year back in 2013-14 when in the Ontario Junior League I joined the Toronto Lakeshore Patriots.
Yeah.
And they went on and won the OJ that year, and then won the Dudley Hewitt Cup and went to the RBC Cup in Vernon, and that's the tournament that Yorkton won the last time the SJHL.
So there you go.
So I did get my 1 year where I was all like, but I'm jealous.
Fair enough. Let's have a look at the schedule for the weekend that is coming up. Bryce, we have those? Yes. So Melville is taking on the Estevan Bruins at Affinity Place in Estevan on Friday. Flin Flon is going to be... Sorry, the website and the graphic have two different orders of these games. So I'm going to go with the one on the screen that you're all looking at. Kindersley is going to be in Assiniboia to take on the Red Wings, of course. Flin Flon will take on Battlefords, Nipawin against La Ronge, and then Humboldt in Melville. And that one has a ton of playoff implications on the line. As early as it is in the season, I'm going to say that because every game, it seems like, shakes up the standings so much. And they're like neck and neck with each other right now. And then on Saturday, there are more games. We see Melfort taking on Humboldt. Estevan against Melville again. Of course, they're just flipping venues in a home-and-home series there on the weekend. La Ronge and Nipawin, they're flipping venues. Kindersley, again, back in Assiniboia to face Weyburn. And then Flin Flon and Battlefords. That's a back-to-back at Access Communication Center. In Battlefords, so Nugsy, there's 10 games this weekend. 2 5-game nights, I should say. Yeah. What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, like we're saying this every year, all year, with the real Humboldt Broncos, please show up and tell us which one you are, maybe. That would be nice. Obviously,
I think they're also thinking that.
I'm sure they're still thinking that too. On Monday, Rory lost it on them, and, fair enough. And I was joking with him and Braden after the game that all it took was Rory to go nuts on one SJHL Weekly show, and the Broncos play amazing. Yeah. But of course, the test is heightened big time with Melfort home and home. Yeah. And again, that's such a great rivalry. That playoff series last year between those two was the best playoff series that I've seen in my time in the SJ, and I've seen some great ones, but that was the best one. And of course, home and home here Friday, Saturday at the Palace, and Saturday at the EPA. Go out there. The Broncos lost last Saturday at the EPA. You don't see that ever, really. So the Broncos, I'm sure, will be willing for some redemption. But again, Melfort teams, can they be beaten? We'll find out. That's the one to watch for me.
Yeah, I think for me, there's two, and I hate to do this because I remember last year, or the last couple of years, whenever Jeremy was hosting the show and he would ask me this question, what are you looking forward to? I would always have like 5 answers. Yeah. So I'm trying to limit it. Sure. But I'll go with one first, and that's Flin Flon Battlefords at the Access Communication Center. Flin Flon has more wins than Battlefords does right now, but they're below them in the standings, and they want to flip-flop that. Battlefords, of course, has the most overtime games in the league right now with 5. So that's why they're ahead of them in the standings, only by a couple points. So this weekend, let me just double-check my math on this. Yes, this weekend, Flin Flon could move into the top 3, hypothetically, depending on what else happens, of course. But they could move ahead of Battlefords at least. So I'm looking at that. And then I'm looking at Estevan and Melville. And I think there's some new faces on both of those teams, especially you look at Melville getting William Forsberg as of recently, Estevan getting their new goalie, Zach Shaughnessy. We talked about that earlier. Yeah. And I think Estevan is in a spot right now where they want to go into the Christmas break on a high note. And I mean, every team does, of course, but Estevan specifically, they're right on the edge of that playoff conversation. And I know they want to get into that playoff conversation. Just given, I know how their coach operates, Jason Tatarnik. He's a playoff championship type of coach. And I know he wants to be there. I know the community wants to be back in that race and be right there. And they have a lot of veterans on that team. And I know they want to be back there. So I'm looking at that Estevan Melville as a possible mini little turning point for Estevan. And I also just want to see how Melville reacts after their loss this past weekend and with some new faces in their lineup too. Yeah. So that's the two for me, but I'm going to say for sure Flin Flon Battlefords because Flin Flon could end up, second place after this weekend.
Or, we previewed when Weyburn looked like they couldn't be beaten and Battlefords went into Weyburn and won 2 in a row and snapped that 14-game streak that Weyburn was on. Battlefords, man, they got a soul to them.
Yes.
That when that soul comes out, they could do anything.
Yeah.
There's something about that Battlefords team. They can have a terrible night and not be great. I'll be honest, no disrespect. They can also beat anybody.
Yeah.
And Flin Flon will be wary of that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Cole McKegg running things.
And it's at home in Battleford.
In Battleford's.
Like I said, I kind of angled that as Flin Flon could get into second place, but at the same time, Yorkton's not playing. Battleford's could also jump up there as well and make a huge statement, ending, if they could end Nipawin's winning streak too, that would be a huge statement for the rest of the league. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. What did I say?
Nipawin. That's okay.
Yeah, Nipawin's winning streak. Well, they have a winning streak too.
Yep.
So who will end Nipawin's winning streak is the question. Keep it locked on SJHL.ca and all of our social media platforms over the next few days. We'll have all the coverage for you, recaps of all the games and everything going on, highlights on our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Get over there, get your Flow Hockey subscription. Again, if you haven't got one, it's Christmas time. And with the way, I'll say this, with the way Canada Post is operating right now, and you don't have to order anything, you don't have to wait for any packages, you just go online, you order it, you got it.
That's a great point.
The Flow Hockey subscription. You don't have to wait. I have like 4 packages stuck right now in transit, and they probably won't get here in time. So if you want to have a merry, happy Christmas, get a Flow Hockey subscription because it's instantaneous. So think about that. But anyways, thank you to our sponsors once again: Cantera Seeds, Borgo, Capital Auto Mall, Sask Lotteries, Chevrolet, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Nutrien, Tourism Saskatchewan, Sask Energy, UPL for sponsoring all of our broadcasts, SGEU, Great Western, SGI, shout out podcast sponsor, SGI, by the way. I don't say that often enough, but SGI is our podcast sponsor, so if you're listening on any podcast platforms, SGI, and RBC. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Jamie, thank you to you. You're always a light in my day whenever we do these.
Same to you.
Bryce in the back for pulling like double, triple. Oh, Jordan's back there. I shouldn't say that. Jordan's back there.
We love you, Jordan.
So he's jumped in to help out. Now, Jordan is here helping us out right now. It's good to have him back. I'm not going to get into too many details about that because I know Jordan's probably sitting back there just like, stop talking about me. He doesn't like being talked about.
Wait, sure he does.
No, he doesn't. I know him.
Guys,
I've known him.
He's sitting right here.
I'm sure Jordan loves to be talked about.
I've known him long enough. All I'm going to say is thanks, Jordan, for jumping in and helping. And you're also a light in my day, Jordan. So there you go.
He's
Bryce, you too. We're all lights. We're all lights here.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Wrap it up? Okay. Again, we're a little short-staffed, so I'm just saying thank you to... I'm just saying thanks, Bryce.
We're a little loopy.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now wrap it up.
Okay. Now wrap it up. Keep it locked on SJHL.ca. Get out to the rinks because, especially if you're in the Assiniboia area, it's going to be a fun couple of weeks there. And get your tickets now to support your teams before the Christmas break. We'll be back on Monday with SJHL Weekly to recap the 10-game weekend and whatever else goes on. So make sure you get out and enjoy the hockey and the rinks. And until then, until Monday, enjoy it, everybody. See you next time.